Your marriage might be dying in front of you, and you're missing every warning sign. While you're focused on the big fights and the obvious problems, your relationship is quietly bleeding out from 7 subtle patterns that most couples never realize until it's too late. These aren't the dramatic red flags that everybody talks about either. They're the silent killers that destroy marriages from the inside out, one small interaction at a time. Now, you probably sense that something's off, but you can't quite put your finger on it. Maybe you and your spouse are more like polite roommates than passionate partners. Maybe conversations feel forced or surface level, or maybe you both just seem tired. You keep telling yourselves every marriage goes through rough patches, that this is normal, that things will get better when life calms down. But deep down, you're wondering if you're slowly becoming strangers living in the same house. You love each other, but you're starting to feel like you're drifting apart, and you don't know how to stop it. I'm Adam Lane Smith, the attachment specialist, and over the past decade, I've worked with thousands of couples who came to me thinking their marriage needed a tune-up, only to discover they were actually in crisis mode. What I've learned is that marriages rarely die from one big blow-up. They die from 1,000 small cuts that couples dismiss as normal marriage stuff. The couples who save their relationships are the ones who learn to recognize these patterns early and take action before the damage becomes irreversible. So in this video here today, I'm going to reveal the 7 subtle signs that predict marriage failure with scary accuracy. You'll not only know if your marriage is in danger, but also discover the quiet patterns that slowly poison even good marriages if they're left unchecked. You'll learn what to watch for in your own relationships, why these signs are so dangerous, and most importantly of all, what you can do to reverse the damage before it's too late. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where your marriage stands, and you'll have a clear path forward. So let's go. So here are the 7 subtle signs that your marriage is in danger. Sign number 1, one person does all the emotional labor. You initiate every conversation, you plan every date, and you attempt every repair after every conflict. Your spouse has become a passive participant who shows up but never drives the relationship forward. You are constantly hoping they'll change if you just love them harder, but there's zero reciprocation of effort. Now, why is this an issue? Number 1, because your oxytocin bonding has become very one-sided. You're not receiving bonding hormones at all from them. Yours are actually draining. You might be trying to initiate and kickstart bonding hormones in them, hoping that they'll be compelled to then give it back to you, but it's not landing. Oxytocin is one-sided at first and then zero-sided over time. Eventually, your nervous system begins to learn that effort equals rejection, and rejection hurts. So your brain stops you from putting forth effort, or it gets harder. Now, instead of dragging the load, you're dragging it uphill, both ways, in the snow, and struggling the entire time. Your nervous system will try to stop you. Cortisol begins to build, the stress hormone, with every unmet bid that you have. Can we connect? No thanks. Can we connect? No thanks. Can we connect? No thanks. It feels at first like sadness, over time like pain, and eventually, sometimes, like anger, resentment. Okay? You start to believe they don't care. The lack of dopamine reward from no connection, your brain needs some dopamine, but it needs dopamine to keep doing the same things. You need to get rewarded. If you're never rewarded, it's very hard to get you to keep putting in the effort, especially if it's robbing you of energy and focus and life every single time you try. The chronic stress response that just builds and builds and builds with no relief, no repair. Emotional burnout becomes completely inevitable in this cycle. Now, sign number 2 is a complete loss of curiosity about each other. You stop asking about each other's inner lives, your dreams, your fears, or even your daily experiences. Conversations instead become purely logistical. Schedules, bills, kids' activities. Neither of you seems genuinely interested in what's happening in the other person's world beyond surface level functioning. Yeah, just give me the details. Just what are you doing? Just give me the rough skim. What's going on? Okay, fine. Go have fun. Why is this an issue? Without any novelty at all, newness, excitement, joy, you get no dopamine hits at all, which is really bad if the person happens to be avoidantly attached in a relationship. But everybody needs a little bit of newness and fun and excitement. Okay. If your brain stops associating your partner with any kind of stimulation whatsoever, your brain says that person is a boring lump of stone. This is death. And by the way, being curious about each other is how you signal that you care about each other. So stopping that curiosity stops the show of love and interest. So your emotional memories you used to have begin to fade, and you're not making any new ones. You're signaling a lack of interest and lack of desire. Your attachment signals really weaken. Your conversation, it just activates task mode instead of bonding mode. Oh, it's you. What do you want? You knocked on my office door. Just really quick. What do you want? You're interrupting something. That's what your brain starts to do. It treats them like an unwanted coworker instead of a partner that you're actually excited to learn about. And by the way, you're probably going to grow apart very quickly and then be utterly shocked at the other person that after a few years of that, they've changed so drastically you can't recognize them anymore. I get asked all the time, what is my attachment style? What is my attachment style? What is my attachment style? So I have finally launched the attachment assessment. This is not a short quiz that just spits out an answer after 3 seconds. This is a thorough, in-depth, science-backed assessment. Check it out on my website, adamlanesmith.com, and learn your attachment style, the severity of what you're dealing with, and some next steps you can take right now to build very secure attachment. Sign number 3 that your marriage is dying. Defensive walls go up instantly. Any attempt to discuss relationship issues, express needs, or share feelings is met with immediate defensiveness, dismissal, or deflection. Your spouse treats your concerns like attacks rather than bids for connection or problem solving. And this makes genuine problem solving and troubleshooting impossible. Now, why is this an issue? Well, as this continues to stack, your amygdala triggers fight or flight whenever they're around, because now you're always fighting. Everything is a battle. Your cortisol spikes at emotional bids. I want to connect with you. How dare you? That's the brain jumping in and doing it. And if you're receiving this, you're being punished for trying to solve problems. That says shut up and accept your fate. Oxytocin release then, the receptors block in your partner's presence. Your receptors get closed because of perceived threats from the other person. Your prefrontal cortex shuts down, the logical part of your brain, so there's no more problem solving that can happen. It's all protect, protect, protect. Now, both of you will do this, and your nervous system encodes your partner as dangerous and unsafe. Sign number 4, and this happens after a while of doing those first 3, you're living parallel lives. You function like efficient roommates who happen to share a house and responsibilities. You coordinate logistics well, but you have no emotional intimacy at all. You have no shared experiences. You have no meaningful connection. You're managing a household together, but you're not building a life together. Now, why is this an issue? Because if you don't have shared bonding rituals, you have no shared neurochemistry. You're not feeding the part of your brain that says, this is my partner. And if you're just going through the basic motions, vasopressin bonds erode over time. Now, vasopressin is actually the key bonding hormone that we have found that dictates monogamy in mammals. If you want a highly monogamous pair bond, vasopressin is key. And if you're just barely going through the motions, that erodes fast. Now, routines replace any kind of intimacy. Your nervous systems fall out of sync. Your identities shift from we and us to you and me. And now you can't even begin solving problems together. Now you try to fix this, and there's the fighting. Now, shortly after all of these start happening, number 5 comes along. Sign number 5, no repair attempts after conflict. When disagreements happen, there's no effort to reconnect or apologize or resolve the underlying issues. You both just move on without addressing what happened. You're just letting the resentment accumulate while pretending everything's fine or just ignoring it. The emotional wounds never heal because nobody tends to them. Why is this an issue? For those of you that are curious, conflict just lingers in your memory. It doesn't go away, you guys. There's no resolution. Your brain remembers that. Prolactin, responsible for more satisfaction. Serotonin, responsible for contentment and richness. They never reset your mood. They never release and say, we got through it. There was resolution. Cortisol just remains elevated. And now it stacks up. The other person is more and more and more stressful. Emotional injuries never close. Now you've got 50 of them. And resentment hardens into your default state. I am hurting, and you don't care, and you keep increasing it, so you're my enemy. This is called a cortisol association. Builds into resentment, builds into contempt, destroys the relationship. Eventually, you can't handle that anymore, and you begin to see sign number 6, emotional flatness in all interactions. Now your conversations have gone beyond anger or feelings at all. Now you lack energy. You lack enthusiasm. You lack any genuine emotion. Even positive interactions, they feel forced or polite rather than authentic. There's no spark. There's no playfulness. There's no deep sharing. There's actually not even anger or fighting anymore. There's nothing. Just surface level pleasantries between two people who used to be passionate about each other. This is an issue because endorphins are no longer triggered by their presence. You don't feel anything when your partner's there. They're dead and you're dead. Oxytocin baseline drops to 0. This is a stranger to you. There's no resonance from your mirroring neurons. So if they cry in front of you, you just look at them like this. You feel nothing. Your nervous system shifts into numb survival state. You dissociate from anything. And joy, play, and affection feel forced and absent. This is a very depressed state usually, and it's not just in your marriage. It echoes out into other relationships and other areas of your life too. And now you're miserable everywhere. I know that a lot of the people watching this show right now have had attachment issues for their entire life. That's why I want to invite every single one of you to check out my attachment repair program. It just might be the jump that you need to go from insecurely attached and lonely and frustrated to fully secure, connected, and bonded in a great relationship like nothing you've ever felt before. Check out my website, adamlanesmith.com, for the attachment repair program. And sign number 7. After all of this, the kiss of death, future planning happens separately. You stop planning together. You stop talking about the future. You stop including each other in your vision of the future. You don't make meaningful plans together anymore. Vacations, goals, dreams, major decisions. You either plan alone, and they can tag along, or you feel like you have to drag your spouse into participating. You've both mentally started living separate futures. This is a serious issue because vasopressin bonding tied to that future vision, being able to mark progress together, gone. No shared goal means no long-term dopamine release, but also that you probably have different desires that are going to start conflicting. Your hope circuits that flood through your brain of hope, joy, connection, any of that, they go quiet. Your partner is no longer any part of a reward anticipation at all. They're gone. And now your brain has been saying you and me, but your body completely stops investing in us at all. This is the kiss of death. Now, most people will hear this and say, Adam, why are these quiet signs more dangerous than obvious patterns? Well, I'll tell you why. Because dramatic relationship issues, big fights, even affairs and obvious conflicts, those are actually less dangerous than this because those at least show people are still emotionally invested. They can be hurt. They can be sad. They can be hopeful. They can even be disappointed. That means they had hope in the first place. At least when couples are fighting, they're engaging and trying. I don't think fighting is good, but it's at least better than this. Fighting means both people still care enough to be emotional about the relationship, which means there's still something to work with. The giving up reality, these subtle patterns, they represent something so much worse than conflict. This is emotional shutdown and the decision to stop trying entirely. These signs, they represent biochemical detachment. The brain has truly let go of the partner. It's stopped trying to reconnect. That partner is dead biochemically. There's no anger, there's no passion, there's no investment, just emptiness. Now, when someone has stopped caring enough to even fight, you're looking at a person who's already mentally divorced, even if they haven't filed the papers yet. These quiet signs of emotional disconnection, that one-sided effort, everything, it's actually often what leads to affairs, especially in women. The 7 signs I laid out here today is what usually leads women into affairs. Not all of them, certainly, but this is the pattern I tend to see. When someone has been emotionally starved, doing all the relationship work for years, they become vulnerable to anyone who shows them attention and reciprocates their effort. This is not to excuse affairs by any means in men or women, but this is the pattern usually that leads to affairs. Yes, for both. Largely, this is the one that leads women into affairs, okay? The affair becomes finally feeling valued and pursued. It's not even usually about sex. It's feeling alive, feeling connection to a human. And because all monogamy and bonding is gone and the partner seems dead, the brain says, I'm a widow, time to move on. Ladies out there, drop me a comment. Let me know yes or no. Is this where the danger zone starts for women? Not that you're going to have an affair, but where the risks of affair, the temptations of affair affairs get really hot. Let me know, please. I'd love to hear your feedback. Now, you need to be able to tell normal marriage challenges from the fatal warning signs, okay? I call the first one the conversation test. Normal marriage problems, they can be resolved through conversations. If you're experiencing some of these patterns a little bit for a couple of days, maybe a week, but you can talk about it with your spouse and see genuine effort to change, that's still within normal range. Couples go through breaks and changes and feelings and issues, but you talk about it, you work through it, you resolve it. The big red flag is when these patterns persist despite multiple attempts to address them, or if you can't seem to address them properly for a reason, okay? This is ultimately why I teach about attachment, not because attachment good, but attachment gives you the means to have the conversation effectively and to then repair. When you have broken attachment, you probably aren't going to have the conversations. You're going to be each silently trying to fix it from your side, which then goes into sign number 1. Each of you feels like you're doing it alone, which then weaves into all 7 because each of you has been trying from your side the whole time. It's usually what I end up seeing. Now, I will say this, when one person will not participate in discussions or attempts at all about improving the marriage, attending some sort of a professional help program, or even acknowledging that there's a problem, they're essentially telling you they don't want to fix it. Now, the point of no return comes when you try to discuss these issues and your spouse either dismisses your concerns, gets defensive, or the pattern gets worse after you bring it up. You're looking at someone who's already decided that the marriage is probably over and they don't want to solve it with you. So if you can't get even basic cooperation in addressing relationship problems, that could mean that there's no relationship left to save. However, we'll talk about that more here in a moment. Now, there is a timeline here for recovery and when hope becomes denial. We'll talk about that here. The patterns don't fix themselves. These patterns don't go away. It's not time. It's not patience. It's not good intention. Every day that they continue, they become more entrenched and harder to reverse. The person who's checked out gets more comfortable with the emotional distance and settles in. Even if they're not happy, they settle in. Well, the person who's doing all the work gets more resentful and exhausted. Okay? Marriages can recover from serious damage, even from sign number 7. I've been there with couples and clients. I've done that. You can recover. But both people have to want to save it enough to do the work. If you're recognizing your relationship in these signs, the question isn't whether or not it can be fixed. It's whether your spouse is willing to do any work at all required to fix it. Your love alone cannot save a marriage that only one person wants to repair. Now, especially when one or both partners have moved into contempt and there's neither willingness to show basic kindness or make genuine effort at all, recovery becomes extremely difficult. So if your spouse refuses to acknowledge problems, participate in solutions, or show any investment in improving the relationship, continuing to hope for change can become a form of self-harm rather than love. Now, that said, situations like this can still sometimes be resolved with professional assistance and proper conversations. 76% of the time, based on research, when a spouse makes a permanent positive change in their behavior that doesn't allow the behaviors to continue anymore, the patterns have to change, usually like pushing the conversations, the other spouse follows along, typically within about a month, 76% of the time. So there is hope most of the time, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. Now, I want to give you some hope here. and some honest feedback. I built my video course, How to Build a Secure Marriage. I built that course specifically to counter all of the issues here in this video. If these issues are causing you any pain and you want to learn how to turn them around, even if you're starting the process by yourself, I made that course specifically to help you. Inside it, you will find the blueprints to build a great relationship, the one that you always knew existed, but that no one taught you how to build. Now, that course includes a number of key things you need to learn. For example, the right way to address painful disconnect without making your partner feel blamed or defensive. Rebuilding the trust, the respect, and the emotional safety as a couple that you need. And then fostering emotional intimacy, even if you currently feel like detached roommates. And finally, how to build a marriage that feels like a comfortable home to both of you. That course was built to show you exactly how to do that step by step. So if you're watching this right now, please don't despair. I have a resource ready for you. If you recognized your marriage in any of these signs, don't panic, but don't ignore what you're seeing either. These patterns don't fix themselves with time, good intentions, or hoping that things will get better. They require conscious effort, new skills, and a complete reset of how you approach your relationship. The good news is that marriages can recover from even serious damage when both partners are willing to do the work. Now, the most dangerous thing you can do right now is to convince yourself that these are just normal marriage challenges that will work themselves out. Every day you wait to address these patterns, they become more entrenched, more automatic, and harder to change. But when you understand what's really happening, when you have the right tools to create the change, you can rebuild the connection and the passion and the partnership that you once had, often stronger than it ever was before. So don't let your marriage become another casualty of patterns that you could have fixed. Right now, you have a choice. You can keep hoping things will magically improve, or you can get the proven system that's already saved thousands of marriages just like yours. My How to Build a Secure Marriage video course gives you the exact tools you need to reverse these destructive patterns and rebuild the secure, passionate relationship that you both deserve. Every week that you wait, these patterns do get stronger and harder to break. So stop letting your marriage drift toward divorce and start building the love story that you actually want. Get the complete system at adamlanesmith.com or click the link in the description below. I'm Adam Lane Smith, the attachment specialist. If this has been helpful, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts here and make sure you get your copy of the course by clicking below. Don't wait.